she found an easy witness, an older witness, and I think she knew that this was a person who could not defend herself and who could not attack back. And what she did that day on July 19th, 2022 to Beth Turner was, I believe that her intent was to kill her.
For someone to do that to someone who's just coming here for family vacation shouldn't be put out in the community.
For Ruth Turner and her family, July of 2022 was supposed to be a time of celebration, laughter, and unforgettable memories. Ruth, a retired nurse from Virginia, traveled to San Antonio, Texas, alongside her husband Frank and their niece Dava to celebrate a family member's 16th birthday. The trip was meant to be a special occasion filled with sightseeing, family gatherings, and quality time together. They had spent months looking forward to the visit and were excited to experience everything the city had to offer. At the time, Ruth was an active and independent woman who enjoyed spending time with loved ones and participating in community activities. Even in her mid-70s, she maintained a vibrant lifestyle and looked forward to creating new memories with her family. Nothing about that vacation suggested danger or tragedy, but what began as a joyful family trip would soon become one of the most traumatic experiences of Ruth's life. Within a matter of minutes, an ordinary stop at a shopping mall would transform into a life-or-death struggle that would leave permanent scars on Ruth and deeply affect everyone who witnessed it.
Welcome to the Court of Justice.
Court is calling 2022 CR 9680, State of Texas versus Priscilla Joyce Gonzalez. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Lindsay Shaw for the state.
Defense?
Christine McDonald for Priscilla Gonzalez.
Are you Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes, ma'am.
Have both parties had a chance to review the PSI report, state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections to the PSI report, state?
No, ma'am.
Defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. According to the plea, punishment is to be assessed at a cap of 13 years in the prison. You entered a plea to aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The state is opposing your application. And defense, any witnesses?
Judge, I have one. And if I could just get some exhibits to please.
Okay. No, I mean, the state will go first, but I'm just wondering if you have witnesses.
Well, possibly two is my client.
All right. State, do you have any witnesses? All right. And Ms. Abrams, if you'd like to go over conditions with them, you can because they have witnesses. All right. State, call your first witness.
Calls Ruth Turner.
Ruth Turner. All right. Ms. Turner, I'm going to ask that you keep your voice up so that the court reporter can hear. Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. All right. You can lower your hand. Can you state your name for the record?
Ruth E. Turner.
All right. State.
Good morning, Ms. Turner. Ms. Turner, I want to start out by asking you, where do you live?
In Broad Necks, Virginia.
And how long have you lived there?
Probably now about 20 years.
Okay. And back in July, the specific day, let's see, was, I'm sure you can tell me the specific day, but let's see,
19th.
July 19th of 2022. Were you in San Antonio, Texas?
Yes,
Why were you in San Antonio?
to celebrate our niece's 16th birthday.
And who all came with you to San Antonio?
My husband, Frank, Dava, and myself.
Okay.
All right. And if you'll just speak into the microphone, then she'll be able to hear. All right. State.
And so you said your husband, Frank, and your niece, Dava Turner.
Yes.
Do you recall on July 19th, 2022, when you were assaulted, and we're going to get to that, but how long had you been in San Antonio before that day?
We arrived on Sunday, so we've been here. This was our third day.
Okay, so only your third day in San Antonio.
Yes.
And so do you remember that day well?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So let's talk about that day. What had you done that morning?
We had gotten on the bus to take a tour of the city. We stayed on the bus for two complete tours, and I needed to go to the restroom.
On the morning of July 19th, 2022, Ruth and her family were enjoying their third day in San Antonio. They spent the early part of the day riding a sightseeing bus that toured the city's famous landmarks and attractions. The family enjoyed the experience so much that they stayed on the bus for multiple tours, taking in the scenery and learning about the city's history. As the day continued, Ruth needed to use the restroom. The family decided to stop at the River Center Mall, one of San Antonio's popular shopping destinations. It was a completely routine decision that countless visitors make every day. There was nothing unusual about the situation. The family walked through the mall together and eventually headed toward a restroom on the lower level. Ruth later explained that she chose that particular restroom simply because it was the first one she noticed. At the time, she had no reason to believe anything dangerous was waiting for her inside. The atmosphere was calm. Families were shopping, tourists were exploring the mall, and people were going about their day. No one could have predicted that within moments, a horrifying act of violence would shatter that sense of normalcy forever.
Okay, so at some point you got off the tour bus,
Yes,
and did you go to River Center Mall?
yes,
And did Frank and David go with you as well?
yes, we were all together.
Okay, and which restroom did you go to?
We went to the lower level because it was the first one I saw, and at my age, I can't tarry very long.
And Ms. Turner, how old are you
I'm 76 now. I'm
Okay.
75 now.
at the time? Okay,
Yes.
so once you, do you recall when you went to the restroom, were there other people using the restroom at the time?
No, there was no one in there except me.
At what point did you see the defendant come into the restroom?
I was washing my hands at the sink.
And when you first saw her, what did she do?
She barely glanced at me. I smiled, but no words were spoken.
So no words between you or her were exchanged.
No.
And at some point, did she begin assaulting you?
Yes, yes,
Okay, attacking you.
attacking me
And
from behind.
Okay, so I want you to walk the judge through that. How did it begin?
I felt severe pain around my scalp and my neck. And suddenly I was being thrown into the floor. I
So-
had sandals on, so I really lost my balance very quickly.
So when she began attacking you, was she stabbing you?
Yes,
Okay, and where was she stabbing you?
in the back of my head in the beginning, but once I was on the floor and she was on top of me, the stabbings were primarily in my neck and around my ears.
Okay, so she began stabbing you in the back of your neck and your head,
Yes,
and then she pushed you to the ground.
yes,
And once she got you to the ground, did she get on top of you?
yes.
How was she on top of you?
She was straddled me like a horse with her knees at my sides.
And she continued to stab you while she was on top of you.
Yes,
And did she ever say anything to you?
no.
What did you say? What
I
did you
asked
do?
her why she was doing this to me, and I started screaming for help. I noticed on the walls of the bathroom blood splatter, so I put my left hand on my jugular carotid and tried to finger off with my right hand.
How'd you know to do that?
I was an RN.
And at some point, did your niece Dava come into the bathroom?
Yes,
Okay. And once she came into the bathroom, was the defendant still stabbing you?
she had drawn the knife up by her right ear. And it had to be a God thing because the only thing I could think of was to.
Once inside the restroom, Ruth went about her business as usual. After finishing, she moved to the sink area and began washing her hands. According to her testimony, the restroom was otherwise empty at the time. Then another woman entered. The woman was later identified as Priscilla Gonzalez. Ruth recalled briefly noticing her but thinking nothing of it. She smiled politely, the way many strangers do when crossing paths in public. No words were exchanged. There was no confrontation, disagreement, or interaction that could explain what happened next. To Ruth, Gonzalez was simply another person using a public restroom. The lack of any warning would later become one of the most disturbing aspects of the case. There was no argument, no threat, and no indication that violence was about to occur. One moment Ruth was standing peacefully at the sink, and the next she found herself fighting for her life.
Utter, Father, forgive her for she doesn't know what she's doing. And it was like a freeze frame. She froze in place.
And when David came to the bathroom, what happened?
Deva saw what was happening very instantaneously, took out her knife and stabbed my assailant in her back.
And once David did that, did the attack end?
On me, yes.
Did she then try to go after Deva and your husband, Frank?
Yes, she instantly got off of me, and from that point on, the relief on my person was immediately taken away.
And I want to show you some pictures, Ms. Turner. Now, you've looked at these pictures today, but this morning, correct?
Correct.
And if we start with State's Exhibits number 2, 3, and 4, you've seen these pictures today, is that right?
Correct.
And they're a fair and accurate depiction of the scene of that day and how it happened. And they've not been altered, correct?
Correct.
At this time, the state would offer State's Exhibits 2, 3, and 4 into evidence pending objection. May I tender to the court, Judge?
Yes. So states 2, 3, and 4 are admitted without objection.
So, Ms. Turner, after the attack stopped, were you taken to the hospital?
Yes.
And can you tell the court what injuries you sustained?
I was diagnosed with having at least 10 stab wounds. My inferior jugular was severed. There was numerous nerve endings that were severed. 24 hours afterward, I went into a traumatic atrial fibrillation, which meant I had to be put on blood thinners and a beta blocker. The blood thinner alone is over $500 a month. So far, I think I am in normal sinus rhythm, but I don't go see a cardiologist until the 18th of May.
And you also had your right earlobe was severed? Is that
Yes.
right? And that had to be sewn back together?
Yes.
And you also sustained broken ribs, is that right?
On both sides, yes.
And are you still, as far as your wounds, they have healed. We can see that you still have scars from those. Is that what we can see on your neck today?
Yes, yes.
And do you, even to this day, experience pain from your wounds?
Yes.
What kind of pain is that?
It's primarily any touching sensation of my ears and parts of my neck. I have no sensation of hot or cold on my neck, only pressure.
Without any provocation, Ruth suddenly felt excruciating pain in the back of her head and neck. At first, she struggled to understand what was happening. The attack was so sudden and unexpected that she had no opportunity to defend herself. She quickly realized she was being stabbed. The force of the assault caused her to lose her balance and collapse toward the floor. As panic set in, Ruth tried desperately to understand why this stranger was attacking her. She had never met Gonzalez before and had done absolutely nothing to provoke the assault. The courtroom later heard that the attack was relentless. Ruth was struck repeatedly as blood began pouring from her wounds. The violence escalated within seconds, turning what should have been an ordinary stop at a mall restroom into a horrifying crime scene. The attack was so brutal that investigators and prosecutors would later argue that Ruth survived only through extraordinary circumstances and sheer determination.
Okay. And then I guess I'll go ahead and show you State's Exhibits 5, 6, 7, and 8. Are these also pictures you have reviewed before testifying today?
Yes.
And are they pictures of you in the hospital
Yes, at Brook Army.
before and after you received medical attention or in surgery, right? Have they been altered in any way?
No.
At this time, I'd also offer State's Exhibit 5, 6, 7, and 8 into evidence pending objection.
Objection, Your Honor.
May I tender to the court, Your Honor?
Yes.
Offer into evidence and tender.
All right, state's exhibits 5, 6, 7, and 8 are admitted without objection.
Ms. Turner, after all this happened, you had to go through a 4-hour surgery, is that right? Have you had to have follow-up treatments and surgeries since this happened?
I've had follow-up treatments for this.
What kind of treatments have you had to go through?
I've had to have an echo to make sure that the jugular had no problems as far as obstructions within. I've had a cardiovascular surgeon check me. I've had a cardiologist check me and my primary care physician to make sure my medications are proper.
And Ms. Turner, how has this affected your life? How has this changed you? How has this impacted you?
Unfortunately, I'm now an elderly person. Prior to, I was vibrant, active, socially engaging. Now I find that I'm just old.
And have you seen changes in Dava as well? Have you seen her have to struggle through this?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
your husband Frank as well?
Absolutely.
And Ms. Turner, lastly, I'd like to ask you, what would you like to see happen to Ms. Gonzalez for what she did to you?
I've prayed about this a lot, and I would sincerely pray that the Lord work in her life and that she will come in contact with somebody that will introduce her to Jesus and let her know that God loves her and can give her peace and comfort that nobody on the planet Earth can. And I would like justice to prevail.
Would you like to see her go to prison? And I know that that's a hard question, but do you feel that she is someone who should be out free in the community?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I'll pass the witness.
Yes.
Have any of your loved ones ever suffered from any type of mental health illness?
Yes, our niece has had issues with depression.
What about schizophrenia?
She's never been diagnosed, and none of my family has.
And you said that you work in the medical profession,
Yes,
so you're familiar with what kind of symptoms someone with that diagnosis would have, right?
yes.
Would you agree that people with that sort of diagnosis need help?
Oh, absolutely,
They need treatment?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, any other questions?
No, ma'am.
All right.
After forcing Ruth to the ground, Gonzalez climbed on top of her and continued the assault. Ruth testified that her attacker straddled her body while repeatedly stabbing downward. The situation was terrifying. Ruth was trapped beneath her attacker, unable to escape, and suffering from multiple serious injuries. Each second increased the possibility that the attack would become fatal as blood spread throughout the restroom. Ruth began screaming for help. She desperately asked her attacker why she was doing this, but received no answer. The violence continued without explanation. That moment, Ruth believed she might never see her family again. The attack felt endless. Every stab brought new pain and new fear. The courtroom later learned that several of the wounds targeted extremely vulnerable areas around her neck and head, placing her life in immediate danger. Despite the overwhelming circumstances, Ruth refused to give up.
I will tell you this, San Antonio is a nice place with nice people. I'm so sorry that your trip here ended that way. All right, thank you for state. Any other witnesses?
Judge, may I just have one moment? I'm going to confer with
Sure. All right, so just so everyone can know, I've read the police report and I've read the stipulations.
Okay.
All right, you can come forward. Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you're going to have to speak up.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, state your name for the record.
Dava Turner.
All right, state.
David, I just want to ask you a couple of questions, okay? And mainly I want to focus on how this has impacted your your own mom, Ruth Turner. How have you seen, how did this change Ruth? How have you seen changes in her?
First off, she's a very religious person, and I thank God that she has deepened her faith and is so grateful for what God has done in her life. Second, she's a very hardworking woman. And after this attack, she no longer had that sort of spirit in her. And that pains me probably the most.
And has it also been hard for you to cope with the effects of this attack and what happened?
Yes. I've been ridiculed at school for being the person who stabs people. I've had my PTSD come back. I've had flashbacks. I still hear screams at night. It's hard.
Is there anything else you want to tell this court?
I don't think a person like this should be let out back in the community because we're not even from here. And for someone to do that to someone who's just coming here for family vacation shouldn't be put out in the community for her to harm other people.
Thank you, David. No further questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you. State, call your next witness.
We have no more witnesses, Judge.
All right, defense, do you have any witnesses? Any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, just argument.
All right, court will hear brief argument. State.
Judge, what Ms. Gonzalez did to Ms. Turner, to Frank Turner, to David Turner, is horrendous. I think Ms. Gonzalez is lucky to be standing here in front of you today with only this charge, with only aggravated assault, because what she did that day on July 19th, 2022 to Beth Turner was, I believe that her intent was to kill her. She was going to, she found an easy witness, an older witness, and I think she knew that this was a person who could not defend herself and who could not attack back, and she preyed on her. She made that decision to go in there and stab her numerous times.
Before retiring, Ruth had worked as a registered nurse. During the attack, that training may have helped save her life as she felt blood pouring from her injuries. She recognized the seriousness of the wounds around her neck. Instinctively, she pressed her hand against the area where major blood vessels were located, attempting to slow the bleeding. Even while under attack, her medical knowledge guided her actions. She understood that severe blood loss could quickly become fatal. The courtroom heard that blood covered portions of the restroom walls during the struggle. Despite the chaos and pain, Ruth remained focused on survival. She attempted to protect herself while continuing to call for help. Her ability to remain conscious and think clearly under such extreme circumstances likely played a major role in keeping her alive long enough for assistance to arrive.
And then she had the gall to tell the police after she was stabbed by Dava, when Dava was protecting her aunt, her grandma, that the bitch stabbed me. I believe those were some of the words that she used. And I understand that Ms. Gonzalez has mental health problems, but I think what the court has to consider is the severe threat that she poses to not only this community, but herself. And I think someone like this, where she needs to spend some time is the prison. And she's been treated and she's had treatment in the past, and she continues to exhibit this type of behavior. And I think it speaks for itself when we look at the fact that she was released from Nick's hospital on January 25th, 2019. But a few days later, she commits an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, separate from the case that we're here for today. I think she is violent, and she has shown this court that with the fact that these are the types of offenses she continues to commit.
Right, and counsel, what do you say to the fact that the state presented a witness, a mental health expert, that she was released and she was not, and she should not have been released from the mental health hospital. It was a situation, which I've seen before, where people have mental health issues. They get treatment and they just stabilize them and then release them without medication, without proper support, and just send them back into the world because not my problem. I want to move on to the next person and we're done. Woo! Thank you. We got her out of here. So what do you respond to the defense's witness? Because that's what the defense witness said. The defense witness said that she never should have been released from the hospital. And it appears that she was released from the hospital and then immediately went out and committed this act.
My response to that, Judge, is that now we have innocent victims here in the courtroom that are victims of her behavior.
But let me ask you this. How is this any different if somebody is at a hospital for, let's say, cancer or some type of physical illness, and they just get them stabilized and say, good luck to you because your problem is too complicated. We're going to stabilize you and then we're going to send you out into the world. Let's say somebody goes to a hospital and they are bleeding or they need a heart transplant. And they say, you know what? Your case is a little bit too complicated. I know you need this heart transplant immediately, or I know you need these stitches immediately, but you know what? We're going to give you a Band-Aid because great. We've stopped the bleeding. We know you're going to end up needing stitches, but we're not going to do that. We're going to send you back out into the world. Good luck to you. And they end up bleeding because they didn't get the stitches. The problem is people treat mental health differently from what they treat people who have cancer, who need a heart transplant. Basically, the evidence that I've heard from the defense's witness is she never should have been released from the hospital with her mental health issues. There's no doubt in my mind that she was going through an episode when this offense was committed. The only issue for the court to consider is whether or not she should be going to prison or whether or not she should be going to probation. So if you all want to address issues for closing arguments, it would seem where the address should be coming in from both parties would be, was she released from the hospital? Should she have been released from the hospital? Did they know releasing her from the hospital, she was going to have an episode? Did they know they were sending somebody out in this world with schizophrenia, with no medication, to go forth on their own? And as I told both parties, I'm aware of mental health conditions. I'm aware of what happens with people who have schizophrenia and they not receive treatment. I'm aware of what people who don't receive treatment for bipolar. And I'm aware of the system where people are tired. People don't want to deal with anybody who is causing problems at the state hospital, wherever they be. And their thing is, let's med them up. Let's get them stabilized so we can push them on. I read all the documents. I read all the defense's documents. I read the PSI report. I read the stipulations and the documents that's been provided.
As the attack continued, Ruth's niece Dava entered the restroom. What she saw was horrifying. Her aunt was lying on the floor covered in blood while a stranger continued attacking her. There was no time to hesitate. Dava immediately realized that Ruth's life was in danger. According to testimony, Dava acted instantly. Her intervention disrupted the attack and forced Gonzalez to stop focusing on Ruth. Many people freeze during emergencies. Dava did the opposite. Faced with a terrifying situation, she acted decisively to protect a loved one. Prosecutors later argued that her actions likely saved Ruth's life. Had she arrived even a few moments later, the outcome could have been very different. The rescue became one of the most dramatic and emotional moments discussed during the sentencing hearing.
To the court by the defense is they wanted to get rid of her because her problem was too complicated. And then I read the documents that were admitted without objections, where when she first came in to see them, she was accusing people of raping her, accusing people of beating her up, accusing people of stabbing her father, accusing people of out to get her, accusing the staff of rape. And they didn't quit on her. They just said, well, she's accusing staff person of rape. It's not true. What we're going to do is we're going to end up having more people in the room. So those are the issues that need to be addressed for the court to make a decision on whether or not I'm sending her to prison or sending her to some sort of inpatient treatment facility. So that's what I would like to hear in closing, because honestly, I already know. I know that she did a terrible thing to the complainant in this case. I know that this complainant was laying bleeding on the floor in the restroom. I know that she was here in San Antonio trying to enjoy her vacation, that she was on a bus. So if both parties can focus on why I should send her to prison or why I should give her probation, I already have read and I know that the complainant in this case could have died. I know that the complainant's relative came in and saved her life. I think that if the complainant's relative hadn't come in at that point in time, she would probably be dead. I know from witnesses' statements that the complainant's life is never going to be the same again. I know that she's not going to be able to do everything that she used to do. So if everybody would like to focus on that, that would help the court make a decision. And I have an open mind both ways. So I will hear argument.
I guess, Judge, it comes down to if she receives probation and she does some sort of outpatient treatment, she eventually will be back in the community. And I think it once again raises the danger level to the community.
So you're saying it would be fine for her to be on probation if she's in inpatient treatment for the entire length of probation?
No, I'm saying if she's on probation, she will be out.
All right, so let's say she goes to prison. At some point in time, she's going to get out of prison because the state is not asking for a life sentence. She's not looking at a life sentence for this offense. So when she goes to prison, if I send her to prison and she gets out, then where are we?
Well, I mean, but Judge, I think the arguments to me made if she gets probation as well. Probation isn't something that lasts forever either. So either she's going to be on probation and be putting the community at risk because she's not in prison, or she's going to be in prison.
Well, if she's on probation,
treatment while she's in prison.
If she's on probation and she's in a facility, because she can be on probation for 10 years. And if she's in a facility for 10 years receiving treatment, how's that any different than her going into prison? And what the state has offered her for a prison sentence, she will be eligible for parole in half the time. And if she's stabilized, she's probably going to be released in half the time. These are questions the court has.
What it comes down to for the state judge is just the level of violence that is this case. I think it's a person who deserves to go to prison and work on her mental health there. There's treatment that she can receive while she's in prison. It's not like we are sending her to prison and she won't receive any type of treatment while she's there. I think, but that gets her out of the community and off the street and prevents her from committing yet another aggravated assault. And I noticed in some of the records from UHS, it says the officer states that she's getting into arguments with other inmates for actions seeming manipulative and attributed to behavior. I think even while even if she were to be in some sort of inpatient treatment, she's putting others at that treatment facility in danger from her violent or aggressive behavior. And so
when the attack finally ended, the restroom was left looking like the scene of a nightmare. Ruth was suffering from multiple stab wounds and severe blood loss. Emergency responders were called, and medical personnel quickly recognized the seriousness of her condition. Family members were overwhelmed with fear and shock. Just minutes earlier, they had been enjoying a family vacation. Now they were facing the possibility of losing someone they loved. Investigators later documented the scene through photographs that were presented in court. Those images helped illustrate the extreme violence of the attack and the devastating injuries Ruth suffered. The evidence left little doubt about how close she had come to dying that day.
So a person like that who is even showing signs of aggression while being held in a hospital or inpatient type facility, the safest place for everyone is for her to be in prison.
So your answer then is let her cause trauma, and be violent at the prison with other inmates?
I believe prison and her receiving treatment in prison is more appropriate than her being on probation.
I proceed.
Yes.
Judge, I know you're aware of this, but I just want to emphasize universal underfunding. No consistent individualized care. Lack of beds available. Revolving door hospitalizations. Too few intermediate care programs. Judge, that's just a snapshot of some of the inadequacies of our mental health system. As my witness pointed out, we've come a long way, Judge. But my client is an example of what happens when we fail, Judge, and our mental health system failed her. I am in no way trying to minimize the pain that that family went through. My heart goes out to them, Judge. But the reality of my client's life is one day she woke up and she heard voices. I know this court has gone over the PSI, Judge. She graduated from high school. She was in college for some time, Judge. She wanted to be a medical assistant. My client had dreams. And I do want to address, the state asked Ms. Morales if my client is a dangerous person. And that just goes to the stigma of mental health, Judge. My client is not a dangerous person. She is sick. She is symptomatic, but she can get better. She's never received a chance to get better, Judge. I'm not asking for her to go into the community. I'm not asking for you to put her on probation, release her tomorrow, put her on outpatient, and send her on her way. We saw what happened, Judge. We saw what happened since back in 2015 when these hospitals did that. And not, these are medical professionals notating on the date of discharge that she's still psychotic, that they're still having to monitor her every 15 minutes. And then not only that, Methodist Specialty, they explored the avenue of sending her to SASH. Why they didn't do it is absolutely beyond me, because maybe we wouldn't be here if my client was committed back then in a hospital, inpatient, receiving the care that she needs, Judge. That would have given her insight, because lack of insight, that's a symptom of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, as you know, affects our brain and how we react. And with medication, it can be managed, Judge. You ask the state what's going to happen when she gets released. Judge, she's going to be worse. She's going to be worse, and it's going to lead right back here. If she's inpatient long enough, Judge, my client has the chance to lead a normal life. I wish that things were different, that maybe our office came in contact with her sooner, but Judge, we didn't, and we're here today. And my client is begging you for help.
All right. So with regards to this case, was there a request for a sanity evaluation? Was the sanity evaluation completed?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what was the result of the sanity evaluation?
She was deemed sane, Judge.
Okay. All right. Ms. Gonzalez, I do feel as though Bear County and society should apologize to you. And let me just tell you why. Because it's clear from the court that you should have been at a mental hospital, but somebody dropped the ball. Somebody just wanted to do triage and send you out into the world, knowing that you should not have been sent out in the world, that you probably should have still been at the mental hospital receiving treatment. And they should apologize to the complainant in this case as well, because who knows, maybe that would not have happened to her if you were where you were supposed to be. But at the same point, I'm looking at the photos. Have you seen the photos of the injuries?
Doctors determined that Ruth had suffered at least 10 stab wounds. Among the most serious injuries was a severed jugular vein, a life-threatening condition requiring immediate medical intervention. She also suffered extensive nerve damage, significant trauma to her ears and neck, and broken ribs on both sides of her body. Her right earlobe was partially severed and required surgical repair. The injuries were so severe that medical staff rushed her into emergency surgery. Even after surviving the initial assault, Ruth faced a long and uncertain recovery. Complications developed, including heart-related issues that required additional monitoring and treatment. The courtroom heard that some of her medications alone cost hundreds of dollars per month, adding financial strain to the physical and emotional burden already created by the attack.
Counsel, do you want to show the photos to your client? And I wanted you to see those because I wanted you to know what, and I'm sorry, counsel, this is for you as well. I wanted you to see those because I wanted you to know everything that I'm looking at and everything that I'm considering. And I take all these cases very seriously. And people don't realize sometimes how hard my job is because everybody wants something. I know what the state wants. I know what your attorney wants. I know what the complainants want. And then I have to make a decision. And part of my decision making is protecting the community. I look at your criminal history, consider any other evidence that's presented to me to make a decision, right? Now, this case would be so easy if you were found insane at the time of the offense, because if you're found insane at the time of an offense, then that basically means you don't know right from wrong. And that means, and your attorney will tell you, that means that you're not responsible because basically you don't know right from wrong. You understand? But in this case, it's not a situation of you not knowing right from wrong. All right. And I do understand mental health issues. And as a defense attorney, I had so many clients who had mental health issues, and I had so many clients who ended up being under a doctor's care for the length of the offense that they were on. I had some clients who were found insane and they were charged with murder, but they were found insane, which would mean because the range of punishment for murder is up to life in prison, they would be under care for life. But I don't have that situation here. So I don't have somebody saying that you were insane at the time of the offense. And the reason why I'm taking my time, and I try to do this with everyone who's before me, so that they will know that I listened and I heard their witnesses and I heard what was given to me. Because I never want anyone to appear before me and they assume that I'm not listening to them. Because sometimes you may see me doing 3 things at one time and people are like, oh, judge is not listening. But I do. I'm able to multitask. And so I have listened to everything. And it is a shame that you were not given the help that you needed at the time that you needed. And it was a shame that they released you. But with that being said, I don't feel comfortable granting your application for deferred adjudication. So I am going to find you guilty. According to the plea bargain agreement, it is a cap of 13 years. Does anyone wish to speak to the cap?
I do, Judge.
All right. State?
Judge, the state is fully aware of the plea bargain agreement. We made that agreement. We feel that the cap and you reaching the cap is appropriate, or that's not the offer that we would have made based on everything, based on the case itself, based on all the facts. That was the plea bargain agreement that we made and defense agreed to. And so for that, we're going to ask the court to use its judgment, but we are asking the court to considering everything to meet the cap.
And Judge, may I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Judge, I'm asking you to take into consideration all of the documents that I provided to the court today, Judge. As you have recognized, my client has been sick for a very long time. And because of that and those mitigating circumstances, Judge, I'm asking for the lower end of the punishment range, Judge.
All right. Ms. Gonzalez, what do you think you deserve? What do you think would be an appropriate sentence for you?
Some medical treatment in a hospital, outpatient aid.
All right, so that ship has sailed. So you're going to be going to prison. So the state is asking for 13 years.
I want him to be getting some kind of treatment in here. If they
Well,
have treatment in here, I could take it in here.
Well, here's the thing. At the prison, they do have a mental health treatment facility there. And I'm going to.
Although Ruth Turner survived the attack, her ordeal did not end when she left the operating room. In many ways, the hardest part of her journey was only beginning. Doctors successfully saved her life, but the physical damage caused by the stabbing would remain with her for years. During her testimony, Ruth explained that she continued to experience pain long after her wounds had healed. Certain areas around her ears and neck remained extremely sensitive. She described losing the ability to feel temperature properly in parts of her neck, meaning she could no longer distinguish between hot and cold sensations the way she once could. Instead, she felt only pressure. The attack also left visible scars. Those scars served as a daily reminder of the violence she endured. Every glance in the mirror brought back memories of the terrifying moments she spent fighting for her life on the restroom floor. Medical appointments became a regular part of her routine. She underwent follow-up examinations with surgeons, cardiologists, and primary care physicians. Doctors monitored her recovery closely because of the severe injuries to her neck and the heart complications that developed after the attack. But perhaps the greatest loss was the life she once enjoyed. Before the attack, Ruth described herself as active, energetic, and socially engaged. She enjoyed spending time with others and participating in activities that kept her connected to the world around her. After the attack, she felt different. The confidence and freedom she once enjoyed had been replaced by caution and uncertainty. While she remained grateful to be alive, the violence had permanently altered the course of her life.
Put on the docket sheet that you receive and that you receive the mental health that they provide.
You know what, then maybe I should read my letter so you understand, because I don't think I deserve to go to treatment. Perhaps you need to listen to my letter. I don't think I deserve to go to treatment. Because this is what I have to say.
All right, well, just a second. This is what the court is going to do. The court is finding you guilty. The court is going to sentence you to 12 years in the prison, give you credit for any time served. There's restitution, if any, to Ruth Turner. There's to be no contact with Ruth Turner, Frank Turner, Dava Turner. I'm going to recommend that she be placed at the Texas Mental Health Unit at the prison. There's an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon.
Well, what I have to say is why I deserve mental health treatment here if they have it.
Okay.
Instead of going to prison. Since 2015, I was hearing voices and I've heard screams and I had saw flames, little images of flames, in my visions around the room in my house. And I told my parents about it and I cried because of these visions of people coming in my house. I told my mom about it and she took me to the hospital to get medical treatment. I went to several hospitals and was taking medicine for schizophrenia, seeing flames and hearing voices. But I don't believe I was myself. I'm not a murderer. According to what the pictures I saw, the stab wound was on the right side. She doesn't have stab wounds on the right side of her neck. And I saw it. Mm-hmm. I stabbed her right here. She doesn't have that. And I don't. All right, so Miss
Gonzalez. All right, let me explain something to you, okay? All right. So I understand what's going on in your life. And I understand that the state hospital and those people in the medical field for mental health dropped the ball. They didn't do right by you. That is why I'm giving you 12 years in prison as opposed to the 13. What I'm telling you is at the prison, I'm going to request that you be placed in the mental health unit. And defense, I know you're aware that there's more than one mental health unit, so they'll evaluate her and see which mental health unit is appropriate for her stay. I'm going to show you what's entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal. Because this is a plea bargaining agreement, because I followed your plea bargaining agreement, and because you waived your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. And because this is a felony conviction, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you have a question over what a weapon or ammunition is, you'll need to speak to an attorney. We can go off the record. Counsel, thank you for presenting that information to the court, and hopefully, the state hospital will do better. Thank you. Court is calling 2016 CR 3792B, State of Texas versus Alejandro Chapa. Excuse me, Mr. Leal, if y'all can move down there because you're behind the court reporter. All right, court is calling 2016 CR 3792B, State of Texas versus Alejandro Chapa. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Stacey Harrington.
Defense?
Robert Porter for Mr. Chapa.
And are you Mr. Chapa?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we are here for sentencing. In this case, the jury found you guilty on some counts, I believe. And on some, you were sentenced to prison.
Yes, ma'am.
On others, they sentenced you to probation.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's the court's understanding that you served your prison sentence, and now we're here to address the issues for probation. Is that correct? All right. The court ordered a PSI report to be done.
The courtroom learned that Ruth was not the only person affected by the attack. The trauma spread throughout her entire family. For Dava, the niece who rushed into the restroom and helped stop the assault, the memories remained vivid. She had witnessed something no family member should ever have to see. In a matter of seconds, she went from enjoying a vacation to confronting a life-or-death emergency involving someone she loved. The emotional consequences were severe. Family members described ongoing anxiety, emotional distress, and symptoms associated with post-traumatic stress. The sounds, images, and fear of that day lingered long after the physical wounds began to heal. One particularly emotional moment came when Dava spoke about how the experience affected her personally. She described dealing with flashbacks and hearing screams in her mind long after the attack had ended. The memories would return unexpectedly, disrupting daily life and making it difficult to move forward. The attack also changed Frank Turner, Ruth's husband. Watching a loved one nearly die creates a kind of trauma that never fully disappears. Family members testified that the emotional scars remained present every day. What happened in that restroom lasted only minutes. The impact lasted years. The family had traveled to Texas hoping to celebrate a birthday and create happy memories. Instead, they left carrying trauma that would follow them for the rest of their lives.
Have you all had a chance to review the PSI report?
I have.
I personally have not. Mr. Lunan, I believe, has, and he can't be here this morning.
All
Judge.
right.
I
Would you
apologize.
like to review the report? Thank you, Judge. Sure. All right. Yes, I think this is the correct one. Probation, did you have one?
No, Your Honor.
This is what I have in my file.
Is this from 2016? Oh. Then David. And that's fine, Judge. We can proceed.
Okay. All right. So let me see which counts.
It's counts 1, 3, and
I'm sorry, counts. You said counts 1
3 and 11.
and 11. All right. And let me just find their judgments to see what.
Also, the court has looked at this approach briefly.
Yes.
In looking through the court's file, we did find that the sitting district court at that point in time, I believe Judge Hiller had already ordered conditions.
So are you in receipt of that?
And the state would agree with that, Judge. We've seen those conditions of probation that were originally signed.
Mhm.
Those are in the court's file. Those were signed at the time of sentencing. That the conditions of probation were already ordered and signed by the court and by the defendant himself.
Okay, so that's counts 1, 2, and 3.
1, 3, and 11.
I'm sorry, 1, 3, and 11.
That's correct. And some of the judgments don't reflect the correct sentences, and the state will have to do a non-pro.
While prosecutors focused on the brutality of the attack, the defense presented a very different picture of Priscilla Gonzalez. According to defense attorneys, Gonzalez had been battling severe mental illness for many years. Medical records showed repeated hospitalizations, diagnoses of schizophrenia, hallucinations, and delusions that dramatically affected her ability to function normally. The court heard evidence that Gonzalez began experiencing serious psychiatric symptoms years before the attack. She reportedly heard voices, saw disturbing images, and believed people were trying to harm her. Her life had once looked very different. Before her mental illness became severe, Gonzalez had graduated from high school and attended college. She had dreams of building a career and living an independent life. According to her attorney, she wanted to become a medical assistant and had hopes for a successful future. But schizophrenia changed everything. The defense argued that Gonzalez was not a naturally violent person. Instead, they described someone who became trapped inside a serious mental illness that was never properly treated. Attorneys presented records showing that she had repeatedly entered psychiatric facilities seeking help. However, they argued that the system consistently failed to provide the long-term care she needed. Rather than receiving sustained treatment, Gonzalez was often stabilized temporarily and then released back into the community. The defense suggested that these failures set the stage for the tragedy that ultimately occurred.
Motion on that to fix some of the judgments.
All right, so then the only issue is with regards to reporting. I usually order the different things when people are on probation, but if Judge Hilbig has already ordered conditions, I'm not going to interfere with his orders unless there's a reason to interfere with his orders. Okay. Just one moment off the record. Attorneys for this jury trial? Raphael Leal. The next question the jurors have is, could Mia have dropped the charges after the outcry? So here you are. And I'll send an answer back. All right. So we're back on the record. Thank you all. Sorry for the interruption. So state you believe there are some issues with the previous judge's orders or issues with the judgment?
Well, the judgments, I think one of the judgments doesn't reflect, at least one of the judgments doesn't reflect the correct number of years sentenced. And possibly two of the judgments. I think they all say 8 years, but that's not correct.
Okay.
Giving you my whole life.
Thank you, because this is a thick file.
Count one, this is count 3 and count 3 themselves, and what the judgments all reflect is that Mr. Chapa was sentenced to 6 years. And going through the court's file and stuff, we did find out, and I think the court's going to find out that it was a clerical error that one of them. The count 1 is a 6-year TDC. Count 3 was actually a 10-year TDC.
Okay.
And count 11 was an 8-year.
Okay, yes, I do see count 1 is 6, count 3 is 10. And then count.
One of the most remarkable moments of the hearing came when Judge Boyd openly criticized the mental health system. The judge explained that after reviewing medical records, psychiatric reports, and testimony, she believed Gonzalez had been released from treatment facilities despite clear signs that she remained unstable. The judge compared the situation to a hospital sending home a patient with a serious physical illness before completing treatment. If a patient needed emergency surgery, doctors would not simply stabilize them and send them away. If someone required a heart transplant, physicians would not ignore the problem and hope for the best. Yet according to the evidence presented in court, something similar may have happened with Gonzalez's mental health treatment. Judge Boyd expressed frustration with a system that often struggles to provide adequate resources for people suffering from severe psychiatric disorders. She noted that many individuals receive temporary treatment only to be discharged before achieving long-term stability. The judge even suggested that both Gonzalez and Ruth Turner had been harmed by those failures. If Gonzalez had received proper treatment, perhaps the attack never would have happened. If the system had intervened more effectively years earlier, an innocent woman might never have suffered such devastating injuries. The comments highlighted the difficult reality at the center of the case. 2 lives had been destroyed, but in very different ways.
Now flipping through pages. And then count 11 is 8 years.
Correct, but all the The judge just doesn't stop with like 6.
Okay,
So
all right, we can, I think,
do a non-pro action.
all right, Caroline, will you be able to, correct those? Because the judgments are off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get that done for you.
Okay, Judge.
All right, and then, I'm assuming I'm assuming, Judge Hilbig ordered reporting.
All of the conditions are on there, Judge. I do know that, I did notice that, sex offender was ordered. I think specifically, what, was the hope of Mr. Lennon was that the, sex offender unit, be ordered. He was hoping that among those conditions that he would be restricted, internet access and some kind of evaluation and treatment that would, address the mindset that allowed him to believe he could use his power as a police officer to manipulate women for his own sexual purposes in this.
Well,
case.
it's ordered that he be in the sex offender program. And I think part of that program relates to internet access and treatment.
And he's already signed up, Judge, on release from prison. He's already engaged in all that. Everything he's supposed to be doing.
All
And
right.
we just wanted to make sure that was covered. Judge.
Yes. And then he'll have to do the reporting. And yes, you're gonna have to register. You understand?
Yes, that's already completed.
Okay. And probation, is there anything else?
No, not at this time, Your Honor. We will ensure that the case is active on our end. And I've already given him some contact information, so I'll just make sure we have everything up to date.
Okay, and then the clerk will correct the judgment.
I think the only other question that was remaining outlying was we know that he has 10 years of probation that he has to be on for, but should there be any issue with his probation, should he have to come before you for an MTR, is what his underlying sentence would be that he would be facing should he be revoked.
Oh, exactly what's in the
Right.
the judgment from the jury. So where the jury says 10 years, then it's 10 years. Where they say it's 6 years, it's 6 years.
And it is my understanding also that when he went to prison, although he's not getting credit for the time in prison, he is getting credit for time in probation. So his probation is only going to be for 4 years, not the 10.
Yes. And so the date from probation, because the judge entered the judgment on that date, the 10-year sentence starts from the date that the judge entered conditions of probation. Yes, counsel. All right. So in this courtroom, communication is key if you want to be successful on probation. If there are any questions, ask your probation officer. If you feel as though your probation officer is not addressing those issues, then Ms. Abrams will tell you we're in court Monday through Fridays, not really Fridays. We try not to be, but I'm here Monday through Friday. And you can always address those issues. And of course, you can always contact Mr. Porter if there's an issue. There's to be no drug use. And I'm very serious about no internet use. And so you need to make sure you follow the conditions that the sex offender program has for you, because otherwise we won't have an issue. Now, something that I do require, and I'm adding this, even though he's entered his conditions with regards to employment, you're not to have any employment as a home healthcare provider with minors. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. I'm already employed.
All right, thank you. But that's something that the court always orders in felony court, okay?
Yes, ma'am. And then, may I ask a question?
Yes.
For the internet stuff, I'll get with them because like for work, I do have to get online to research parts that we ordered, things like that. So I guess they'll discuss that.
You will need to let them know whatever phone you have, whatever access you have, you need to let them know that.
Despite her criticism of the mental health system, Judge Boyd still faced an extremely difficult legal question. The issue was not whether Gonzalez suffered from mental illness. Everyone in the courtroom agreed that she did. The issue was whether she was legally responsible for her actions at the time of the attack. A psychiatric evaluation had already been completed. Although Gonzalez suffered from schizophrenia, experts ultimately determined that she was legally sane when the crime occurred. That finding carried enormous consequences. Under the law, being mentally ill does not automatically remove criminal responsibility. To avoid criminal liability, a defendant generally must be unable to understand right from wrong at the time of the offense. Because Gonzalez was found legally sane, the judge could not simply order treatment and dismiss the criminal case. She had to impose a sentence. Judge Boyd carefully explained her reasoning. She acknowledged that Gonzalez had been failed by multiple institutions. She acknowledged the years of untreated mental illness and the evidence showing that she desperately needed help. At the same time, she could not ignore the suffering endured by Ruth Turner. The photographs of the injuries, the testimony from family members, and the lasting physical and emotional damage all weighed heavily on the court. After considering everything, Judge Boyd denied the request for deferred adjudication and formally found Gonzalez guilty. The courtroom fell silent as the judge announced the sentence. Priscilla Gonzalez would serve 12 years in prison. The sentence was 1 year below the maximum allowed under the plea agreement. Judge Boyd explained that the reduced sentence reflected her belief that Gonzalez's mental illness and the failures of the treatment system were important mitigating factors. However, prison alone was not the entire order. Recognizing Gonzalez's ongoing psychiatric needs, the judge specifically recommended placement within a Texas prison mental health unit, where she could receive treatment while serving her sentence. It was a decision that attempted to balance accountability with compassion. For Ruth Turner and her family, the sentence represented justice for a horrifying attack that nearly ended a life. For Gonzalez, it represented the consequences of a violent crime committed during years of untreated mental illness. And for many watching the case, it served as a sobering reminder of what can happen when severe mental health conditions go untreated and warning signs are missed. In the end, there were no true winners. One woman would spend years recovering from devastating injuries. Another would spend years behind bars receiving treatment she arguably should have received long before the attack ever happened. The case stands as a powerful example of how violent crime, mental illness, and systemic failures can collide with tragic consequences for everyone involved.